Thanks, Mike. Everyone can hear me? Good to go? Okay, cool. Awesome. First, well, second Zoom meeting ever. So kind of, I don't know, I'm just kind of out of my element or out of my element. I'm Sonny, I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date of June 1st, 2021. So, God willing, coming up here on 3 years, a couple days. I have a sponsor. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I have a home group, Group 500. It's a men's meeting, speaker meeting. We meet every Friday at 7 p.m. Um, and yeah, I figured tonight I was going to talk about, spirituality. I was also told I got 15, 20 minutes, so I'll keep track of that. So yeah, I wanted to bring the topic of spirituality because, it's the second and third step. I really, truly, at least for me, right? Because I can only, talk about me and my experiences is like I think if I didn't have spirituality at all, like, in my life, I wouldn't be here today. Um, which is a very odd thing to say given, my life and just, um, because I'll say, growing up, right? I won't get into it too much. My mom is actually on this meeting as well. Um, so I won't get into it too much. But I grew up and didn't have just had a somewhat, you know, just not the best childhood. I had two pretty alcoholic parents in the home, and like my experience with spirituality then at the time was my grandmother who had life, she had life pretty well handed to her. She hadn't had to work in a while. Like our lives were just complete polar opposites, and she would kind of force the Bible onto me. And so any sort of religion or spirituality to me was it just I just didn't see why it was necessary. Like I'm a man, right? Like I have full control of me and my life, and that's just do the best of what I could get. I really didn't see the point of like religion or spirituality at all. I really thought those were like the same thing. Spirituality was just religion, but in like a different fancy word. And so, fast forward a little bit, my mom gets sober. She joins AA. She just hit 8 years last month, May 18th. And so, very proud of her. And I'm coming up on 3 years here soon. So you could do the math, right? Like, eventually there came a point where, you know, she was talking about me getting sober, right? And she had brought me to, a few different kind of AA meetings. And I always thought, oh, well, they have to have this spirituality thing, right? Like, that's what they say they need. And that was a big thing that turned me off is to like, you know, um, being in AA or NA or CR or any type of 12-step meeting, right? You always got to go to that second and third step. It's always going to lead to that. And um, it just turned me off a lot. Like I used to think people who were religious or spiritual were like less intelligent. And they just needed something else because they were weak, right? Like that was always my view. Um, until really what it was for me, man. I went to a residential, I went to an inpatient, got out. I went through an outpatient program, which this was 12-step based outpatient program. They didn't really let you choose. It was, hey, we're doing the 12 steps here. Um, and, I kind of just, I really stuck around for the fellowship within the first 3 to 4 months. I was pretty dry drunk, dry sober, and I did everything to check off the box, right? I got the sponsor, um, showing up at meetings, um, it did not starting on step work really. Like I was kind of half-assing through it, um, telling my sponsor just kind of what he would want to hear, and probably not calling him as much as I should, um, to like get more vulnerable, right, and things like that. But eventually what it was for me is like it came to a point where, um, after about 3 or 4 months, and I looked around and I said, wow, like these people are still here smiling, you know, they're still showing up. They're still like, I did start to believe them more and more of like, okay, these people are happier than me and they got the goods. Like they figured out how to do it because I definitely hadn't. Um, I was kind of faking it, right, for a while. Um, and so eventually I really came to a point, man. I looked around after a while being dry drunk for 3 4 months and said, dude, like what am I doing differently that these people that seemingly, they got it right, what am I doing differently? And I looked at it and did a lot of reflection and talked to other people more because I really wanted a solution. And the answer was everything. I've been doing everything differently. They had been doing, they're talking to their sponsor every couple of days or every day, and they got sponsees too. They're giving the love back, right? Like at my core, I am a taker. Um, that's just a self-centered natureness of me and my disease. Um, I just love to take, and so I did some pretty hardcore reflection and said, well, and people are telling me, hey, like, if you work this program, like you worked, like, like you were getting drunk or getting high, then you'll get relief. And what they meant by that is, I'd be on the phone 8 hours a day looking for people. Um, oh, still here? My phone did like a thing. Am I still here? Okay, good. I'd be on the phone 8 hours a day, right? And looking for people to get a bag and stealing air duster from Walmart, um, like drinking perfume and mouthwash when I didn't have any alcohol at home. And so it's like those were extreme measures, right? And I had to, so if I really want the gifts of recovery and working a program and the gifts of AA, then I got to work it, dot the I's and cross the T's. Um, and so, to kind of get a concept of a higher power and spirituality, it took a lot of just talking things out with people, right? And really getting to understand it and really like becoming more open minded. Um, like I was pretty extremely open minded. I also kind of used to think like mental health wasn't really a thing, and like just kind of that, I guess good old boy or like that man attitude of like, nope, like I got all my problems, it's fine, get away, I'm cool, I'm good to go. Um, I just kind of thought I could solve everything on my own until I started, talking with people and um, right, and really, I think one of the first things it started out with was I would get very resentful at people, naturally, always, around this probably 4 or 5 months sober, and I would get very resentful, right? And I would call these people up, like my safety net, my good crew of people, and my sponsor, and I would tell them like, man, F this person, and they're doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't really get relief from that, right? And they knew I wasn't getting relief from that. And so they kept telling me over and over and over and over again, like, Sonny, you need to start like praying for them. And that was obviously the last thing I wanted to do. But, like I said, repetition after them keep telling me. And then so I would start to pray for these people and pray that like they get everything I want in life. Pray for like their health, their well-being, and stuff like that. And to my like huge surprise, that like those resentments started going away. And that's what really opened me up to like, oh, damn, like maybe there's something to this like higher power stuff, right? And then from then it was like people would talk to me about the concept of like 3D HP. For those who are not familiar with that, 3D three-dimensional higher power is it's like the God, it's like the God within, right? Um, which is kind of your own personal relationship with God. There's a God within, right? And there's the God in between, which is like me and a newcomer or me and my sponsor, um, just talking, right? Just like I shared my inventory with my sponsor. We went to a park and there was a sunset. It was beautiful and I cried. Um, like that to me is the God within or the God in between. Um, and then there's the God without, which is like none of us should be here right now, um, at all. I know definitely at least I shouldn't. Um, that's the God without is things that shouldn't really be possible, but they are. Um, and I started looking at all that, man. I'm like, wow, like, you know, these are things that have true meaning in my life. And I turned to those and I started seeing the gratitude more. Like that helped a ton. I would write gratitude lists out. I should probably write a few more lately, to be honest. But that's the thing that really kept me tight to recovery in AA in the beginning is, um, staying tight with the gratitude list and like upon awakening, um, really trying to see the good things throughout the day, right? Because I can look at the negatives all damn day. Um, I think of a situation where so I was in, this is kind of like a spiritual story to me, right? Is I was doing outpatient and I had a sponsor who was part of the like outpatient support group. Um, he had like 8 or 9 months sober and he it was like it had to be like a 45-minute round trip for him to or probably an hour, honestly. He would pick me up for outpatient 5 days a week. He would pick me up, um, hang out at the outpatient or just go back home, pick me back up and then bring me home. Probably that was probably like 40, maybe 50 miles a day for him, 5 days a week. And he never asked for gas money. He did that for maybe 4 months, right? And um, I didn't, it's because I lost my license, right? I lost my license at the time. I didn't have a car, um, and so I get out of outpatient, right? I successfully discharged. I completed the program, um, right? And then the day after that, I get medically cleared to have a license, to get my license back by the state of Missouri. Um, the day after that, my sponsor got involved in a hit and run, right? And so, I was able to be there for him, in a way that he had been there for me, and I view that situation as just like so spiritual of like, wow, like this man, my sponsor was able to be there for me. Um, and then I was able to kind of pay it forward. Um, but in terms of like spirituality, really like one of the best ways I have heard it described is really in the big book. Um, so turning to that, me and my sponsor, um, we had just read this somewhat recently, a couple weeks ago. We go through a chapter a week. Um, but I wanted to read this part. It says, this is page 27. There's a solution. Um, it says, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomenon. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. I really, and there's, another definition towards the back of the book, which is, it essentially kind of says the same thing. Um, but to me, it's like, wow, like when I really first started going through that with my sponsor, I was kind of in the process of that, and really all it was is, I started turning to like, I guess I started turning to my higher power more, right? My higher power and my spirituality definitely have evolved a ton since I like first got in the rooms and the program. But essentially, I can kind of try and explain what it is. I definitely encourage a lot of people to come up with their own version, um, but my version, right, is I really think I'm a complex guy with all these complex problems, and life is crazy. But so I've really tried to um simplify it down, right? And really what it is to me is like my higher power used to be me, right? Like I did whatever the hell I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. That's a higher power. Um so it used to be me, right? And it used to be bad. Um, and so today, really, what I try and view my higher power more as, it's something else. Definitely not me, anything but me, because I'm so self centered. Um, Something besides me, right? And then just overall, like a phrase that was repeated a lot in my outpatient treatment center was like, just take the next loving action. Like if I take this next action for myself, like will I hit my head on the pillow tonight and thank myself? Like will I be proud of that? These are the things that kind of come to mind when I think of a higher power. Like what am I doing for like something else, like a community or like the greater good? Is something that is outside of myself. What am I doing to like contribute to life? Um, and my higher power has brought me to great places. Like um I'm a peer recovery coach at a residential inpatient center, which is kind of like a substance counselor. And I have that great career by the grace of God. I never would have had that, right? Like I have a service position once every 2 weeks. I go into a jail here in St. Louis, and me and a couple friends like will bring an AA meeting into there. Um, these are like some of the things I try and just keep up with, to going back to like doing something that is outside of myself and doing something that is contributing to something else, because I have almost a decade of active use and active drinking. There was a lot of pain and suffering. I caused a lot of pain and suffering to other people, including myself. Um, so I got a lot to make up for. But even so, like I just get so much more when I dig into other people and their problems, like the people at the jails, when we have the meeting and they're talking about them and their problems. I'm not thinking, oh, I got car insurance payment coming up, and those problems kind of seem to go away. Um, and none of that was me. I would not be anywhere near the place I am today without like a spiritual presence or a higher power. you know. And so really, I mean, that's all I got, really. I don't know how to end it, but that's all I got. Thank you all.